The number one mistake I see young leaders making today is that they are afraid of confrontation, so they won't make the spot corrections that are needed to build the culture that they want, the team that they want, and ultimately be the leader who they need to be. So I was a military officer for over 8 years, and since then I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade, leading teams throughout my entire career. It's been a big thing. Leadership is something that happens behind the scenes. I don't always talk about it as much as I should on podcasts and YouTube, but I definitely want to start talking about it more because it's where I'm getting a lot of questions. Within PT Biz, our mastermind, I run a leadership call every single month. I'm helping mentor and guide young leaders and leaders in general who are looking to shape their leadership ability. And what you have to know about leadership is it is what scales your company. You know, I've never run into a business that I've been working with, you know, who gets to multi-7-figure range. I've never heard them say, you know what, I'm just out of marketing tactics. I don't know the next marketing tactic I need to grow my business. By that point, they know those things. They have the nuts and bolts of business down. Where they're running into trouble over and over again is leadership. Leadership is what scales your company because you need people to scale the company and you need to lead these people well to be able to grow your business. And the biggest thing that I hear in the leadership calls that I do, the people I work with, is that they are letting things slide. They are afraid to do the spot correction. And so what happens when you're in any kind of environment as a leader, you're kind of responsible for everything, right? You're responsible for the tone, the culture, all things that are happening in the company, in your team. And what happens is something will happen that you might just have a gut feeling about. You might be like, I didn't like what that person said, or that rubbed me the wrong way, or that is not in line with our mission or our core values. These kind of things happen. And sometimes it can just be a feeling, something a little bit more nuanced. Sometimes it could just be straight up, they didn't do the thing on time. They didn't do it how they were supposed to. They didn't do it to the quality that you were expecting. And what happens when you don't communicate these things to your team, you're starting to build a new company culture, and it's the company culture you're building through inaction. A lot of people don't think about that. A lot of your company culture, a lot of the people you're leading are growing or not growing through your lack of action. It's the inaction that is growing the culture. It's the inaction that is developing what your company is becoming. And once you realize that, there's not, I'm either going to take the action or do nothing and things will stay the same. It's kind of that either you're growing or you're dying approach. And that's how leadership works. If you aren't taking the actions to improve the team is actually getting worse, or you're building a company culture that you do not like, you do not enjoy. So if any of these things come up, you see them coming. Someone didn't do something, you need to confront them, or something rubbed you the wrong way, the feeling, the nuance thing, anything, you need to do a spot correction, and here is how. You do it immediately, okay? Immediately. Sometimes I tell people like, hey, you need to correct the behavior, and they have this meeting with their employee at their quarterly review. And then when they get to their quarterly review, they have this sheet of paper with 15 things on it. And it sounds like you're just whining and complaining about the employee. And you've been keeping this list for 3 months or whatever with 15 things on it. And you're just telling people what you did and didn't like. And it's like, why did you let that stuff slide for a full quarter? You need to do immediate correction. But when I say immediate correction, there's also some nuance to that. If I am in a team meeting of 7 people and one person said something that I do think they shouldn't have said, I have 2 options. The nuclear option is to immediately correct that person in front of everyone else. This is a very bold option. You lose a lot of leadership, social capital in doing so, especially with a person, because you're basically embarrassing them. The only time I would ever do that is if it was something that was egregious, something just like really not okay for them to have said or done. And to be honest, they were flirting with whether or not they were going to have their job or not have their job by having said that thing. So maybe it was a joke that borderlined on sexual harassment, something of that nature. It's an immediate and public action. Okay, that's when I would do it in front of other people, because what I'm doing is I'm setting the tone and the standard for the team of like, under no circumstances is what you just did okay. But that is like I said, that is the nuclear option. Very infrequently would I ever have to exercise that option. I have had to exercise that in the past, but it is very infrequent. Now, how you actually should do it, say I'm in this meeting of 7 people, someone said something they shouldn't have said, or they didn't do something they should have done, whatever the case is, make a note in it, because I'm always taking notes during meetings. And then I'm going to pull that person aside. Even if this is Zoom, if you're virtual or in person, I'm going to ask for an offline meeting with this person if it's virtual. And I'm just going to immediately do it. Be like, I'll wrap up the meeting, then I'll be like, hey, so-and-so, can you stay on the meeting, or can you meet me in a different meeting room or whatever? Pull them aside and you make the correction right then and there. Right then and there. You don't let these things fester, because like I said, they did it. They're going to think that it's okay, and they'll continue to do things like that, or not do things if they didn't get some work done or whatever. So you need to correct it immediately. Like, hey, John, what you did in the meeting or what you said, definitely not okay. We don't do this. Here's why. Here's the big reason why behind. It's not in line with our core values. So let's just not have that happen again. Or if you're like, they didn't do some work, like, hey, I don't know if I didn't communicate this properly, but I needed this done on Thursday. And the reason it needed to be done on Thursday is because these reports go out on Friday. I need to be prepared for that Friday meeting. I need to have all these reports done. So, we can look at it as partners, so on and so forth. A big part of these spot corrections is not just firing off, you did something wrong, you suck, don't do it again. It's explaining the why behind the reason they need to do the thing, or why they can't do something, or why there are rules in place, whatever the case is, explaining the why behind it. Like, why is that our stance as a company? Why is that my stance as the owner of the company? And why do they need to do these things? When you explain the why, now we're having communication. And communication is one of the biggest, ways to be an effective leader, is to master your communication style with your team. Explaining the why is one solid move in that direction of honing in your leadership, and being a better communicator is making sure you explain the why, as opposed to just being the person who has the rule book and tell them the rules and they can't do something. But the biggest part of the entire spot correction, aside from communicating, explaining the why, is the fact that it does need to happen immediately. So again, it doesn't have to be right there on the nuclear option immediate, but like within that same time period. And if you're crunched for time, definitely make sure it happens by the end of the day. Worst case scenario, the beginning of that next day. Even then, that's getting a little stale for me. I would want to correct it faster than that. So this is a very easy thing to do. It is a very simple thing to do, to spot correct an employee. It is not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because confrontation is not easy. And this is what I think people fear the most. They don't want to rub someone the wrong way. They don't want to have this dicey relationship because they think the person's going to quit. But you have to realize that's what people are looking for in leaders. Leaders set boundaries. Leaders have values. Leaders hold people to a standard. And that's what people want. If they don't want that, cool, they can go work somewhere else. But that's how you step up as a leader, is you implement. You don't just say, hey, yeah, we're all in this together, like whatever goes. Because the biggest thing, if you're struggling with confrontation or having the difficult conversation or doing the spot corrections, the biggest thing you need to be thinking about is, okay, by me not doing that, what company culture am I fostering and growing? Because it's either growing one way or the other. Like I said, you're growing or you're dying. And when it comes to your company culture, you're either setting the standard and you're building the company culture you want, or you're not doing that and your company culture is just becoming something. It's becoming something that you're not going to want in 1, 2, 3 years down the road, when other people are running the show, when these off-color jokes are being said and all these things are happening. People aren't sticking to deadlines because you never held the standard in the first place. So look, I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. Like I said, it is simple. It is not easy, but you have to have the difficult conversations. You have to confront the team. You have to do the things that are required as a leader. Don't let it slide. Be the person. Step up. Try harder.